As the great parliamentarian Edmund Burke once stated, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Former United Nations Chief Dr. Andrew MacLeod is proving he is not such a man but instead a courageous one. MacLeod has recently gone on the record as a whistleblower with the bombshell claim the United Nations, Oxfam, and the Clinton Foundation all traffic children and sell them for. In fact, he states many of the major international aid agencies are responsible for the trafficking of children in many of the countries they operate in. The former UN chief spoke to the Daily Mail giving graphic details in his effort to put a stop to the disgusting acts of many charities around the world, including the infamous Clinton Foundation, are staffed by a disproportionately high number of pedophiles that traffic children for their own sick and demented desires, choosing to exploit the many of the most vulnerable and defenseless in countries around the globe. He details how the UK's National Criminal Intelligence Service issued warnings about these charities some 20 years ago as organised paedophilia was becoming rampant in the developing world. Yet according to MacLeod's testimony, those warnings were ignored, claiming the problem has been common knowledge in aid circles for almost 30 years. Some even speculate warnings were deliberately ignored. He stated of the aid industry worldwide with disgust and contempt, those who deny it are either lying through the teeth or have their heads buried so far in the sand that their ignorance is deliberate. MacLeod spoke of his time working for the Red Cross in Yugoslavia back in 1996 when he first heard of a nightclub known by the name of Florida 2000 in the Bosnian city of Zenica. There he spoke of prostitutes being put to work in the club at the tender age of 14, with many of them trafficked into the country by the UN for their own personal pleasure from the nation of Moldova, located just next door. When UN official Catherine Bolkovac came forward in an attempt to expose this horror, MacLeod was a witness as she was first demoted and then later fired. He watched in horror as a concerted campaign was launched to discredit her and destroy her credibility, all for the crime of speaking up. In 2010 her story was turned into a motion picture film entitled Whistleblower, starring Rachel Weisz. Aid workers earn in a typical year approximately £30,000, which translates to just over $42,000 annually, but they are working in countries where the average person earns as little as £300, which is approximately $400 a year. As such, $42,000 a year is considered enormously wealthy and enables them to live like royalty with all the perversions on full display. While working for organizations such as the Clinton Foundation, the United Nations or the UK's Oxfam, pedophiles gain tremendous influence and have the ability to exploit men, women, boys, and girls, with children, in particular, being the most vulnerable targets with the least ability to fight. MacLeod states his decisions to come forward were as a result of the revelations of Oxfam aid workers hiring child prostitutes in Haiti back in 2011. Investigations into Oxfam since 2011 have been ongoing, and as more and more levels of corruption are revealed, it became abundantly clear someone needed to stand up. Oxfam is a confederation of 19 independent charitable organizations around the world that use the name Oxfam and are led by Oxfam International. The organization claimed to have done their own internal investigation back in 2011. Naturally, there was no mention of UAL abuse, and assurances were made all around that the irregularities weren't financial in nature. Then in 2018, the Daily Mail began their own investigation, discovering the palatial apartment known as the whorehouse where aid workers were discovered cavorting with half-prostitutes wearing Oxfam Charities t-shirts and nothing else just after the devastating earthquake, boasting a 25-feet swimming pool and a charming sun terrace. This is the luxury apartment block in Haiti where Oxfam aid workers cavorted with young prostitutes at a party likened to a Caligula orgy. The 6-bedroom service complex, which can sleep 12, was rented to Oxfam for around £1,200 a month for nearly $1,700 a month in USD. This is considered an astronomical sum by Haitian standard, especially for charitable needs. Previous investigators, there have been several, that attempted to expose the vileness of the aid workers' actions met with fate similar to Bolkovac in an effort to protect their crimes. But now Oxfam's cover-up is falling apart. Actress Minnie Driver was previously an ambassador for the charity. She suddenly and without explanation severed all connections with Oxfam and resigned from her role as ambassador. Then Oxfam's international chairman was arrested for fraud in Guatemala just a few days ago. With these dire truths being revealed to the public, the same public whose donations are essential to the survival of the international aid companies, things are suddenly looking very dicey. While the misdeeds of the Clinton Foundation's abuses in Haiti are well known and well documented, Oxfam attempted to distance themselves when exploitation and initial defrauding of the world's poorest nation were initially revealed, naming the Clinton Foundation at the forefront, exposing the Clintons internationally. In October 2016, Breitbart reported on a Clinton Foundation insider describing how Oxfam screwed us. Yet it seems Oxfam was right in the thick of the abuse and exploitation themselves. Yet another charity has been named as well in this vile scandal, exploiting those most vulnerable for little more than the sick pleasure of deviance. International Rescue Committee (IRC). IRC is headed by UK ex-politician David Miliband and recently had the funding completely cut off by the UK government officials because they refused to get a handle on these sorts of problems, as revealed in a damning report. Many speculate if this was what President Donald Trump was attempting to target and even eradicate when he signed the December 21 executive order, where he declared that severe human rights abuses and corruption have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. Just prior to that executive order, Miliband of IRC was screaming their lungs off that the Trump administration had just cut the funding. It seems President Trump is doing his best to expose and stop these deviants from profiting off the misery of others and preying on the vulnerable. McLeod should be hailed as the hero he is for coming forward, likely at great personal expense. HT Daily Mail. Follow us on Facebook. For the web powered by Zergnet, this figure skating move was too provocative for the Olympics. Olympic figure skater handles wardrobe malfunction perfectly. The real reason you don't hear about Leanne Rimes anymore. Donald Trump's bizarre hairdo finally explained. Snowboarder breaks his neck in terrifying crash at Olympics. Here's who Jackie Kennedy thought had her husband killed.